Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel Cakes by MK. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to achieve this really easy and super gorgeous effect using aluminium foil. If you're new to my channel, please click the subscribe button below and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you're updated whenever I upload a new video. Apart from that, stay tuned and I hope you guys enjoy this video. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to melt some chocolate. So you can use whichever kind of chocolate that you like, but today I've got some white chocolate here and I'm going to be melting that white chocolate over a double boiler. Now when it comes to milk or dark chocolate, I prefer to just melt those in the microwave because it's so much easier. But when it comes to white chocolate, I always choose to melt it over a double boiler. Now the reason for that is because white chocolate is so notorious for burning really easily. So, I don't want to run the risk of my chocolate kind of, clumping up or seizing. So I prefer to just do it over a double boiler. It's just a lot more fail-proof that way. So what I've got here is I've just got a small saucepan filled with some water. I'm going to bring that water to a simmer and then I'm going to place my bowl of chocolate on top of the water and I'm just going to mix it every now and then, and that steam from the water is going to gently melt all of my chocolate. So my chocolate is nicely melted now. It's really nice and silky smooth. And now we're ready to move on to the next part of this cake. So now we're ready to move on to the fun part, which is the aluminium foil part of this cake. So what I've got here is I've got a long piece of aluminium foil and I have measured that up against my cake to make sure that it wraps entirely around my cake with a few extra centimeters on either side just to make sure that I'm not short. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the height that I want my foil to be. Now the reason why I decided to show you guys this part is because I'm not going to simply cut the top of my foil off. Instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it. And the reason why I'm doing that is because it's going to give the foil some extra strength. So when it comes to lifting it up later, when it's got the chocolate on it and then wrapping it around your cake, it's going to make the foil just that little bit stronger so that it's less likely to break. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to lift up my foil, hold it up against the side of my cake. So I want my kind of foil to be just maybe like 1 or 2 centimeters above the top of my cake. So just about there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my aluminium foil at that point and just try and keep it nice and straight. Yep, so that looks really good. It's at the height that I want it. And now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating the kind of crinkles in my aluminium foil. So what you want to do is you want to have it the right side up, so the side where the fold is not showing. So that's the back, so it's got that fold there, so you want to have it that way. And now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my fingers and start kind of creating those crinkles along the aluminium foil. Now again, just remember to be gentle with this because you don't want your foil to rip, otherwise your chocolate's just going to fall through the foil, which you really don't want. So just be gentle with this. Okay, now once you've created the crinkles, you want to now really gently flatten out your piece of foil so that it's long and straight, but you don't want to kind of completely, soften out all the crinkles that you've just made. So you just want to kind of gently pat it down so that it's nice and straight on the top and bottom. Okay, so I have flattened that out nicely now, and now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to brush some luster dust on the top of my foil before I go ahead and pour my white chocolate on top. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because when we come to doing our second coat of luster dust, once we've removed our aluminium foil, it's going to give a deeper gold look, which is what I'm going for today. Now the way that I'm going to put my luster dust onto my aluminium foil is I've just got a nice big brush here, which is really fluffy. And I'm simply just going to get some luster dust. So today I'm using this Pearl Luster Dust by Go Bake. And I'm simply going to dip my brush in and just brush that everywhere over the foil. So I've got the luster dust on my foil now, and now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pour my white chocolate over my foil, and I'm just going to use a large offset spatula to help me spread it all out. And you just want to make sure that you're spreading it right to the edges. And now I'm just finishing off by going through and dropping a little bit of white chocolate in areas where I think it may be a little bit thin. Now once you've got the chocolate nicely on your foil, the next thing to do is to let this set for a little while before we come back to wrap it around our cake. Now you want to let it set for long enough that your chocolate isn't flowing off your foil when you lift it up, but you don't want to let it set for too long that your chocolate becomes hard and that you then can't lift it up and wrap it around your cake without it breaking. So yeah, anywhere between kind of 15 to 30 minutes, and I'm going to speed up the process by popping this into the freezer for about 5 minutes, and then it should be good to go. So my chocolate has nicely set now and it's ready to wrap around my cake. Now the way to check whether your chocolate is at the right consistency is to lift up one part of your foil, and it should be nice and malleable that you can kind of, wrap it around a cake, but it shouldn't break. So if I lift mine up, you can see there that I'm able to kind of move it like that, but it's not breaking, which means that it's at a good consistency now to wrap it around our cake. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Now just be really gentle when lifting up the foil and try and get your hands underneath as much of it as you can. And as you're wrapping it, just make sure that it's flush with the bottom of the cake. Now with this end part here, I'm simply going to fold over the foil that's empty. And I'm going to bring the rest of my foil up against the empty part so it's kind of joining the two chocolate parts together. And then just kind of shape it using your hands to make sure that it's nice and straight. Okay, so my foil is nicely wrapped around my cake now. Now another thing I forgot to mention is to make sure that your buttercream is nice and cold, because this is going to help when you're kind of maneuvering your foil around your cake to make sure that it's nice and straight. So if your buttercream is soft, if you need to for some reason pull your aluminium foil off to reposition it, it's going to grab all of that icing with it, which you really don't want. So just make sure that it's nice and cold so that it makes it a lot easier to nicely wrap around your cake. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm simply going to pop this into the fridge to allow the chocolate to completely set. So I'd pop it in there for anywhere between half an hour to an hour, and then we'll be back to start removing this aluminium foil. So my chocolate has nicely set now. It's firm to the touch, which means that we can go ahead and start removing our foil. Now, if you start removing your foil and it's kind of sticking a little bit, that means that your chocolate is not completely set. So just pop it back into the fridge for another 15 minutes or so, and then try again after that. Now, if there are some parts on the bottom which are kind of sticking like that, then just get a sharp knife or scissors or whatever you've got and just kind of remove it with it. So I've got the last of my foil off my cake now, and now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean up the little rim here on the edge where our foil joined, and I'm simply going to do that by using a small knife, and I'm just going to cut that excess chocolate off. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to color my chocolate with more luster dust. So I'm going to be using the same gold luster dust that I used earlier, and I'm using the same brush that I used earlier as well, just to spread that luster dust all around the chocolate. And what you'll notice is that this beautiful gold sheen is going to come through. So I have put all the luster dust over my cake now, and how incredible does that effect look? And now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the bottom of my cake board, and then I'm going to finish off with some flowers. Okay, so luster dust is really hard to take off white cake boards, and when I was doing my trials, I didn't use a cake board, I used an acrylic disc, so my luster dust came off a lot easier. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to transfer my cake onto another white cake board, but just keep in mind that, when you are doing this, then just place something down, like some tissue or maybe some parchment paper or something, just to catch that luster dust, so then you don't end up a complete mess like how I did. So I have transferred my cake onto another cake board now, and it's looking a lot better. And now the last thing that I'm going to do is I've just got some flowers here which I'm going to decorate the top of my cake with. Now when it comes to the inside of your cake, you can put luster dust there as well and kind of make it completely gold, but I quite like the effect that's kind of going on at the moment, so I'm going to leave mine like that. Now when it comes to my flowers, these are artificial flowers, so I've just made sure that they've been thoroughly washed and dried, and so I'm simply going to just put those right into my cake without wrapping them. Now I'm just finishing off with this artificial leaf that I've got here, and what I did is I just painted it with some edible gold paint, which I also made out of the luster dust that I used for the outside of my cake. And if you're not quite sure how to make an edible gold paint, then I'll post a link below to a more in-depth tutorial on that. Okay, so I'm happy with how that looks now, and that is my aluminium foil cake all done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how to create this super gorgeous effect using aluminium foil. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this, and thanks again for watching Cakes by MK.